Good evening, guys. Bear with me. We haven't done a practice for this yet, so it's literally just a one-off opportunity to go for it. So bear with me. I'm just going to try and add Christian on. Right, sorry, just waiting for Christian to join all the way down in New South Wales in Australia. So tonight is a little bit of, I guess, an anticlimax. We wanted to get everyone together to talk about the new corgi aviation releases in the first part of the catalogue. Um, but to a lot of our surprise, there was only three new aircraft plus the original Spitfire TR9, as demonstrated on the picture there, announced last week. So it's it's a bit of a weird one because I'm sure Christian, when he comes on, you put a very good balanced view on the Facebook page with a quite well written piece around what There was a lot of hatred towards it. I don't think hatred's the right word because it's clearly there's not a lot we can do about it, but it was very anticlimactic in terms of we wanted a big old fat release and we just got three new aircraft. But of the aircraft released, they are very nice looking pieces, and I'm sure they'll be really well manufactured. And it clearly shows that Corgi are struggling with the manufacturing process down in China. So the four releases, whilst I'm going through this, so I can show these pictures to you and try and share them. Stop sharing, sharing again. Bear with me, sorry. So the first official release is the Ju-52 of depicting an air ambulance from Stalingrad. Lots of discussion around the camouflage or weathering technique used on that, which hasn't quite gone down as well as I guess Corgi would hoped. The second release, bear with me, keeps making me go to a different set. So is the long-awaited T for Tommy Dan Buster Raider. Of course, this year is what is it? Is it the 80th anniversary? Yeah, 80th anniversary of the 617's Dan Busting Raid. And this aircraft has been wanted to be released for a number of years, and unfortunately, Corgi have arrived a little bit too late to this because unfortunately, Johnny Johnson, who was the bomb aimer on this aircraft, passed away in the later part of 2022, which is a real shame because I'm sure they would have obviously done quite a big piece around obviously presenting with a copy of this. But I'm sure it's going to be a real hit with the aviation diecast world. And the final one is, I can tell you, is the second Beaufort. I didn't write any notes down now, but this is sure to also be a big hit. the first one is it caught a lot of people by surprise because we all expected a Hamden to be announced. But then obviously this sort of rocked up instead. I'm guessing corgi are waiting for the Hamden to be built at Cosford in the Midlands at the RAF Museum now to then scan it, which seems to be the new way. But also announced in the catalogue. Oh, Christian's on. Bear with me. Let's see if I can add Christian on. Bear with me. Press invite. I've sent you an invite, Christian, so you just got to accept it, mate. Hopefully you join them. Also announced in the catalogue was a new B-26 Marauder. We're not too sure if it's going to be an early short-winged small tail version or a later big-winged big tail version, which I'm sure we can go into a little bit later. It was a really good piece on the model Hangar 3 forum if anybody's on that, well worth looking into. We know the aircraft that's been LiDAR scanned, as it's known, and that is Dynamite in the Utah Beach Museum in Normandy. So I would assume that will be the first release out of the blocks of that, but there is no definitive date. So it will either be in this year's catalogue at some point, whether the April to August or September to December catalogue, or in 2024 for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which I would imagine is more likely. And of course, a 148 Tornado GR1 and GR3 series as well. So that should be a real hit with the model making community, or the diecast community, as it's probably better to say, because obviously they're two very different communities. Bear with me, I'm trying to invite Christian again. So I've sent you another invite, mate. So there is a little bit to get our teeth into. But as always, it'd be quite a balanced argument as well, because I can't really find an awful lot of fault with all 3 or 4 releases, depending on which way you look at it. I would question the first TR9 release as whether there's more iconic schemes to be done, but you don't usually get a non-RAF Spitfire. So from that point of view, I think it's a really good thing. It is a very nice scheme as well. Of the, I think it's TE308. I can't remember the serial off the top of my head. So yeah, just waiting for Christian to join. So bear with me, let me just turn the camera off very briefly. So any questions you might have, please put them into the comments down below. We'll see if I can note them down, or we can ask them as and when they're being asked. But I think looking around the forums, personally, when I first sort of opened the catalogue Tuesday, I was really disappointed. Not with the actual releases, because I know they're going to be great aircraft. All 3 I would love to have in the collection, but I've slowed down in terms of my acquisitions, certainly in 2022. Because I've just run out of room, in all fairness. For anybody who's not seen the man cave, I'll give you a quick scan while we're waiting for Christian to join. So let me just try and add in one more time. There we go, see if that works. So yeah, for anybody that hasn't seen my man cave, there you go. That's just one side of it, approximately 1,300 aircraft, and I am at pretty much capacity on it. So my collecting habits have changed, but there's still, there's something really nice, especially in these Spitfire series, the Spitfire 9s and TR9s. I'll certainly look to try and see if I can get them. It might mean moving on a couple of other bits in order to sort of acquire them. Christian, I'm trying to add in, but for some reason doesn't seem to want to join for some reason. I don't know if you can request to join, Christian. At the bottom of the page, there should be a little camera with a plus on. If you press plus, that should allow me to add you to the video as well. Let me just try one more time, because he seems to be having an absolute shocker. There we go, invited. But yeah, obviously, for anybody who don't know Christian, I was going to say, use the term hangs around on the Model 8 Hangar 3 forum, which might not be the best terminology, but he's been collecting for years, got an outstanding collection. He's down all the way at the bottom of the world in New South Wales, Australia. So it's, I think, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning now. It might be even earlier. It might even be 5 o'clock in the morning. So he's got up especially early to join this. I know obviously he works shift work as well. But he seems to be having an absolute shocker before he can get onto it. We usually have James and Sam, but both of them are Arsenal fans, so they're currently watching the North London derby, or shall I say, currently watching Arsenal annihilate Spurs. I'm not going to say too much. Everybody knows me, I'm a West Ham fan, so we're having an absolute shocker. In terms of football this weekend, my little boys' team got battered twice. West Ham lost, and Dagenham Redbridge, my other team, because you already had 2 teams, right? My mum was from Dagenham, but Dad's from West Ham, so I support both. And they lost yesterday as well. So it's been an absolute stinker of a weekend from football point of view. All right, it's 5 o'clock, I've just been told, in Australia. So he's up super early. And he's saying, I'm trying to get on. I've just got messages from Facebook popping up on the screen. He's having an absolute shocker. Bear with me. Hold up, there he is. So that he's watching the video. Oh, see if that helps. Bear with me. Sorry, we'll see if we can get him back on. Moderator can't be in a live video. Oh dear, what have I done now? Apparently, if you add someone as a moderator, they can't be in a live video. So I've just changed that out. Try that again. So hopefully we can get him on. I think because he's on a computer, it's a lot more different to try and join. If anybody knows, obviously Instagram and a phone, an iPad, and a PC is completely different. So there's all sorts of different options. But trying to add him into this video. So that's why Sam and James aren't on tonight. They're busy watching the football. But speaking to them, I'm sure if they do join a little bit later. Hey, there he is. Get him on. There he is. On a computer. Good morning. Good morning, mate. How you feeling? Everybody knows that Instagram.
Ah, man, every time I do this, I can only do it on my phone, not on my computer, and I don't know why.
There you go. I was going to put it down to the old age thing, but I'll leave it at that, mate.
Well,
how you doing?
How
you
much
okay?
battery have I got left? Right.
Oh, no, don't be telling me that.
I've got a battery issue with my phone. I don't know why I cannot get this bloody thing to go on my computer. It's driving me insane.
Look, I've never used it on a computer, mate. I've always just used it on my phone, much easier. And I've got one of these little stand things, which I can't rotate and show you, but it's got like a little light on, which sort of shows all my impurities and imperfections and crow's nests and baggy eyes and all sorts.
Anyway.
On another note, how comes I'm looking more tanned than you are in the middle of Australia? I don't quite get that, Christian. I know. Obviously, you work through the night quite a bit, but my tan's looking magnificent. If I must say myself, it's either that or jaundice. So I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out the way it's going. So anyhow, I'm sure you've watched the sort of quite lengthy intro where everyone's had to just see me waffle on like a madman for the first sort of few minutes. But I sort of alluded. No, that's fine, mate. Look, don't worry about it. Look, you're getting up at 5 in the morning, the other side of the world. So, just really grateful you want to join. And I think being someone in, I use the term this community who's been around a bit. You've been on the forums. You've got an amazing collection. It's good to have someone also with a very balanced viewpoint. So, one of the things I opened the video with, there was quite a lot of commentary around. That there's a lot of hatred towards the catalogue, and I wouldn't say mine was disappointment. Mine was massive disappointment purely on the size of it, not disappointment on the releases. The releases I think are great. I think it's a bit naughty adding the Spitfire TR9 in and saying it's a new release when really we've known about that for 6 to 9 months. But look, I know you wrote a really brilliant bit on the Facebook page, which again, if anybody's not a member of, it's really worth being on there. Some really good people on the Facebook group with, lots of knowledge, lots of brilliant collections out there. But you wrote a really balanced bit around actually the releases are really good, but your disappointment around the number of releases and the build up to it. So look, I'm going to hand over to you before we get into each model sort of individually. Do a little bit of a summary of it in your words.
I guess all I'm saying is that it's the beginning of the year, and in my view, at the beginning of the year, you want to go off with a bit of a bang. It was Corgi, as I pointed out, it was Corgi that built this catalogue up. For months, you know, there was leaks, there was videos. Michael and old mate did this long video, 2 videos. You know, it was Corgi that built this up, and then just to come out with three models, I think, you know, the big issue is they've missed out on most collectors. So if you're a Battle of Britain collector, a 8th Air Force collector, a Cold War collector, a helicopter collector, a World War One collector, you've missed out. You've got nothing to look forward to. So, you know, the natural human reaction to seeing something that they've been wanting for a while, that Corgi's built up, and there's nothing for you, well, you know, social media is going to, you know, how you behave is going to be a little bit different on social media than what you do in normal life, and you're going to be a bit more angry about the fact that you missed out as a collector. And I don't understand why Corgi put themselves through that. And to be fair to Corgi, it may be a factory issue. It may be specifically a manufacturing slot issue. We don't know that. I found it interesting that Corgi actually said something on social media. That's pretty rare for Corgi to comment on what's been said on social media. So I assume that the backlash has been significant enough for Corgi to actually say something, which I thought was pretty telling. At the end of the day, they're 3 good releases. I mean, one of them, you know, the scheme's a bit suspect, and obviously the Lancaster is a tad late. But they're 3 very good releases. But again, you know, 2 of those releases are heavies, the most expensive, biggest models there are.
You need 200 quid a
And
go.
again, you know, you're constraining a lot of collectors anyway because they don't want big, expensive models, or they can't fit those models in their collection, or they can't afford it. So really, how many people are going to be really that enthused with this first catalogue? Not many. No. Certainly not many on social media is to be believed. So that's pretty much the summary. My summary.
I personally think that the Typhoon debacle, and I use the word debacle there because actually, if you balance out the tooling is magnificent. It's a beautiful bit of kit. But the mistake was huge, and I know for a fact that Corgi were livid about that, absolutely furious. I do know some other bits as well from people within, not obviously Michael or David. You know, just rumours from other collectors who have whether it be they buy off of them or whatnot. But I did hear that Hornby used the same factory to produce the train sets as well. So I'm wondering whether Hornby are the ones who are slowing Corgi down. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful thing, because obviously they are the 4th brand of Corgi. You know, Hornby behind Hornby itself, Airfix and Scout Electrics. Corgi's the little brother in the corner who don't get any attention. The one who's fighting for the scraps. I'm not going to say the runt of the litter, but they clearly are the 4th brand within that brand. And I think that does pose some issues for them. But I also think, again, with my balanced head on, because that's the way I love this hobby. Looking around me, I'm surrounded by the bloody things. So I really care passionately for the brand. But there are other brands out there, and if they slow down significantly, it could be a big problem for them, because if Hobby Master really, I'm using them as an example, really wanted to go on the aggressive and go, do you know what, we're going to start doing 148 jets, where Corgi are putting all their effort into, this could pose a huge problem for them. So they've got to keep getting stuff out at a great standard, but they also can't let their prize pig, i.e. the Typhoon, come out the way it's come out, because now that was their banker. That was going to be their end of the year, ka-ching,
Yeah.
and now everyone's gone, no, I'm not happy with that. And let's be honest, if you're a good modeler, you can fix that pretty quickly. But if you're not, if you've got like Savaloy fingers like me, and you've got not the patience to do that, and rightly so, if you're spending northward of 180 quid on a model, you're not going to fix it. So it's a tough one, isn't it? It's a real tough one. But I think going back to the actual aircraft, I think they're good. They're good releases. You know, the Beaufort's a winner. The Spitfire TR9. I know there's a lot of debaters that, oh, why have you done that? But if you know how many Spitfire flights have been done a year, you're talking into the thousands now, I reckon, because there's a number of operators. So that's going to sell, even if you know, it's a no-brainer in the sense that the ones that corgi sell to suppliers will be good, but the operators will have them in their stock anyhow, and they'll do a package in the Spitfire where maybe you pay another £100, you get a GoPro video, and you get the model with it. It's an easy win, so they automatically sell them. So that's why they've done it, and you know that's great. The Dan Buster is amazing. It's just a shame that, you know, I think we've spoken about this on every video we've ever done. Where's Johnny Johnson's bloody Dan Buster? And it turns out, and I guess I get again why they've left it to the 80th anniversary, but the man unfortunately didn't make it to that, which is a real shame, because that would have been a lovely tie-in for him and his family as well. But you know, it's still a great tribute, isn't it? So that's a winner. The JU52, you know, I've just looked at the old Stalingrad release, and that's not perfect by any means, but this looks it looks nice. I'm not going to say it doesn't look nice. It's a lovely compatriot for all the Strike East stuff, but it does feel like it's one from last year that sort of rolled over, if that makes any sense. Yeah. It's right. It's a 2022 release in the 2023 catalogue, but it's very, very nice. Dwayne's just said, I wish Corgi did an Indian trainer Spitfire with the Will Randall historically accurate trainer. I don't know if an Indian Spitfire TR9 would sell Dwayne, to be honest with you. I think you'd struggle unless Corgi got a foothold in India. But yeah, same with the Irish one. The Irish scheme's nice as well. But look, I think that's my piece on it. So do we want to go through each one individually? I guess that's the best way to do it. Should we start with the Spitfire because it's the cheapest?
Yeah. Look, I assume that Corgi has an arrangement already. I assume that this is not Corgi all by itself. So, you know, that what you're suggesting, you know, the package deal, you get a flight, you get a model, the whole bit, makes a lot of sense. And, you know, and both you and I think Alex, that guy on the forum, pointed out that, you know, we're talking about 3 or 4 flights a day for each aircraft. You know, that they probably would do that sort of, that at least that many sorties a day to make any money from the aircraft. That's a lot of sales over a year. So I assume that, excuse my sniffing, I just woke up. I assume there is I assume there's some between those companies and Corgi, and you know, it's not for me. It's not for. Although if I flew in one, you know, next time I go to Blighty, I'll probably make an attempt to have a fly in a Spitfire if I'm rich enough, and I'll have one. So, you know, I think it makes a lot of sense for Corgi, and I reckon it'll make them some, you know, some dough. I do. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. But so to put it into perspective, in terms of TR9s out there, you've got one operating in Holland. You're going to have one operating in Norway by the end of this year, most probably. You've got one operating in New Zealand. You're soon to have one operating in Australia at the Pays. What airport is the Pays based at? Judy Pays P40. Well, that is going to be based there. I think it's up the road from you, actually. The one with all the big warbird collection. Must say up the road. Obviously, in Australia, up the road's about 1,000 miles, isn't it? Up a 1,000-mile dirt road. But yeah, there's one to be operated there. Biggin Hill have 3. So they've got the Sharkmouth, they've got the TR8, and they've got a D-Day one as well. Goodwood has 2 aircraft. They've got a Polish Insignia one and another aircraft. You've got the one at Sywell, which is the Grey Spitfire that operates, and that's one of the busiest operated aircraft in the country. And then you've got 2 at Duxford as well at the moment, but there's probably going to be another one added to that. Oh, and of course, not forgetting Aero Legends, who are based at North Weald and Headcorn, are really busy. They're going to have 2 aircraft by the end of this year as well. TR9. So there's so much. Yeah, that's more. That's 12 or so, is it? I mean, I've not even counted.
It's probably there's a whole heap in the pipeline as well.
Oh yeah, it's going to be up to about 20. There's loads. You know, the Isle of Wight at Sandown, they're churning them out by the dozen every year. It's unbelievable. So
you know, Spitfire's on the window there, aren't they? I think. Yeah, I think that. I think it was. We all thought it was a bit weird, but it's the more we talk about it, the more we understand the industry, the more we seem to realise that this is actually a bit of a moment of genius from
No,
corgi.
it's. I think it is. I think it is, and it was also the first lidar scanned warbird, I believe. When I remember chatting to Michael when they were initially announced it. That's why the lack of dihydral at the time made a lot of people go, "Oh, hold on, what have they done?" But clearly there was some dihydral in the video that they did at Christmas, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's also what's really good as well. You're talking about that bit where on social media where they responded to it. I think that's good that that was on the agenda. I mean, everyone was saying, I got on the day when the two Spitfires were released on in the Diecast diary, I must have received about 20 different messages from different people saying, "What have they done? No, God, we had such high hopes." But then the next Diecast diary, they had, they brilliantly showed us how they were getting round the lack of dihydral, because I guess you can scan it as it is, but how it's manufactured is really, really important, because it's still just a flat wing, isn't it, in reality? So the way they showed how they were making it work was really, really clever. And I'm confident both of them will be brilliant releases when they come out, including the Johnny Johnson one. But I'm surprised they've not followed it up with another Spitfire in this catalogue, another Spitfire 9 anyhow at least. But I guess they're probably going to do the Spitfire 9 or TR9, because they're going to play off against each other, I suppose, aren't they? So I suppose there is genius in that point.
Yeah, the new toys are dragging out. How long have we known about the Harrier? We've known about the
Since
Harrier
the
for
start of last January. So again, they're perfecting it, but the test one only come through November in November's Diecast diaries. So that's still some way away. But again, you've got, I think I forget who put the post on the Facebook group talking about Chinese New Year. China is really suffering with COVID again as well, because
I think
they smoothed it over.
I think it might have been Craig that mentioned the Chinese New Year. Bless him.
But that shuts down for literally 2 weeks, doesn't it, as well? Which doesn't sound like a lot, but 2 weeks out of 16 is an eighth of your catalogue. So that slows everything down. And when your factory is manufacturing Hornby and probably Scale Electrics and maybe even Airfix as well, I guess that plays a massive part. And also, like I said, with the Typhoon thing, they've got to get closer to that factory and stop them making errors of, that's cost Corgi thousands of pounds, thousands upon thousands of pounds. And that thousands of pounds might have been an investment in the third tooling for this year. So, I guess from that point of view.
I know they're accepting all the returns for it. Are they planning on doing anything about it?
There's been nothing officially released. No. But I'd imagine they're going to have to. They did with remember the Vulcan with the Roundels issue, or with the dekill issue. They had to take a lot of them back to redo them. And there was one member on the Facebook group, Gray, who sent his back about 3 times, I think, before he was happy with it. And rightly so, because you're paying top dollar for this. It's not a £20 toy.
No.
It's a replica die-cast model. That's what I always say to people. It will go to me, "Oh, look at your toys." I'm like, "They're not toys. They're replica die-cast models, all right?"
Yes.
That's really, really important as well. But so I'm going to get back to the Spitfire. I'm quite happy with it, to be honest with you. I think it's a really good, sound business decision. The TR9 isn't the sexiest of Spitfires, but it'd be interesting to see how they do the canopy thing as well, because obviously you've got the Grace style or the Dick Melt. Is it the Dick Melton or Grace style canopy? And then you've got the normal TR9 canopy, which is.
Yeah, I only just found out about the canopies yesterday, so I didn't read canopies, and I only found was it yesterday or the day before on the forum on Model Hanger that somebody was telling me about it. So.
Yeah, so there's 2 types of canopies. Be interesting. So they'd have to have 2 different fuselages, pretty much to make that work. So look, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, they've got to nail this one first to make sure it's right. But I still think it's a weird scheme to go with first off. I think it's a lovely scheme, and it's unusual for Corgi to do a different air force of an aircraft that's pretty much just plastered in RAF schemes. But I think it's lovely. But it's a bit of a curveball one to go for, but I'm all for it, to be honest with you.
No, yeah, I assume they've just gone through what's pretty, or maybe the that runs the Grey Nurse is the one that, you know,
Biggin
demonstrated
Hill
most.
Heritage Hangar. It's Biggin Hill Heritage Hangar. They're the ones who run that one, and that's an ex-American airframe. I forget the name of the guy because it crashed at an air show, or it got chewed up by a hurricane, believe it or not, that aircraft. And then it was sold to the UK and repainted in Grey Nurse. But obviously, that's an aircraft that graces the Australian scene as well, isn't it, Grey Nurse? But in this single, it's an 8 Mark 8, isn't it? The Grey Nurse in Australia.
Yeah.
So I'm not into the complete differences between Mark 8 and 9. I'm not. I know there's a different tail and God knows all that. And the Mark 8, if I'm right, is predominantly the airframe for the Mark 14 with a Griffin put on it, isn't it?
Pretty much. They're very
very similar. Yeah. Anyhow, I digress.
Yes. Yeah, I think we've already talked about the JU-52, have we? No.
Briefly, now we can talk a little bit more about it. Do you want give an honest appraisal of what you think the scheme's like?
I don't like it, and I've seen there's a French fellow on Model Hangar who's been spending a lot of time digging up some photos of the actual airframe.
Yeah.
And he got one yesterday which may explain the scheme. I don't like it. I think corgi don't know how to model anymore, and which I think is a real shame for the hobby. I think it's, for me personally, I think that's significant that they don't know how to model anymore. They've lost the art, and I don't know if it's because it's a new factory or it's too expensive. I don't know what the reason is. I'm sure there's a reason, but I just don't think they're very good at modelling. And the scheme's very similar to the ME 110 that was released in the last CAT, and I thought that was awful. And I didn't buy it.
And I'm trying to see if I can find it. Bear with me. I'm just going to wander off. Carry on talking. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just trying to get the ME 1010 for people to see.
So there's some really good photos on Model Hangar. There's a lovely photo of the actual aircraft that appears to be a standard Luftwaffe scheme that's just painted over white. And the leading edges and the front of the fuselage, the engine bloody, I forget the name of it. The front of the aircraft is all worn away because of, snow and dust and wind. And so it's darker, and it looks really, really good. But they've just made it all white, and they put these strange little blotches on it, and I think it looks pretty average. And I only have one J52. That's the Malta one, and that's a cracking model. But it's not. It's not a. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
This one, that's not bad actually in reality, because it hasn't got what I would describe as poo coming out of the engines. This one's not overly weathered. It looks more camouflagey than weathering, if I to be honest. The JU-88, however, looks almost overdone. It's clean, but it's tried to be dirty and it doesn't work.
Yeah. I think the best winter one that I own is the Hartmann's Gustav. Like, it's chipped and it's like, it is a cracking model. And I don't know. Mate, I don't know. I don't know why they've chosen that scheme. I don't like it. And, who knows? Hopefully it'll sell.
I'm just looking at that now on the shelf. I'm not going to move it because all the bloody undercarriage are end up falling out of it. So I know, what the ME 109s are like. I do agree. I think they could, they'd gone for just a plain white scheme. I get why they'd looked at that and gone, no, it's a bit too. It's really difficult to, I think, do weathering really, really well in mass production. So with Noel, if you look at Noel, when Noel does his weathering, he does it individually.
Yes.
But he's not the CEO. He's the CEO. He's the model maker. He's the designer. He's the guy who puts them all in the packaging. He's the one who quality checks them. He does everything. And corgi aren't like that. It does need an individual touch to it almost. A weathered white scheme with proper weathering. I mean, there'll be. I mean, if you look at someone like Pappy on the Model Hangar 3, I can't wait to see what he'll do with his one if he gets one, because he'll make it look majestic. The guy's an absolute magician. Well, if you'd like to say, if anybody's watching this video, he's not been over there. I know there's a lot of debate around forums on one of the other Facebook groups. I'm not even going to dive into that in this video, but it's a great source of, you see what people can do with the modelling. Same with like some of the great model accounts on Instagram. Like the Airfix modelers and plastic kit modelers. Some of the things they do are just unbelievable. So in the right hands, I think that could be a great bit of kit. But I'm not, certainly, with my talents, I'm not going to muck around with a £180 model trying to put weathering onto it without ruining it. So I'd rather just, and that's part. Huh?
I mean, that's the point. It's £180. Yeah. Should you make it a little bit more realistic?
I mean, you can. If you've got an old damaged one, I think I've done a few dodgy code 3s, some old damaged ones, and I'm cool with that, because actually they're copies of what I've got, and I'm happy to do that. I mean, the only time I've done a big model is a Dakota, and to be fair to me, it come up pretty good. Not perfect by any means. I know where the imperfections are, but I did a D-Day bird, and it come up really, really nice. And but even then, when I was doing it, I was a nervous wreck every time I was trying to spray it, touch it up, or whatever it may be. So I completely get why people wouldn't want to do that. But so it's a nice looking scheme. It's a great tie into the rest of the Strike East stuff, but I don't know if it's quite the right. What's the word? Right. Oh God. Finished article. Well, I'm trying to think of execution. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry, my brain had just gone into. I had a nap this afternoon. It's completely killed me. Yes, it's not like the right execution in my eyes. But anyhow, we'll move on from that one. So the Beaufort. Have you actually got the new Beaufort, or the first release?
Yes.
See, I didn't get it. I didn't get it.
Model the what?
Model year. No, mate. 2022 has just been a complete shit show for me. So less said about that, the better. So I haven't actually got it. I might do eventually, but I'm in no rush. I said, bits haven't really been joining the collection for 12 months, so I'll get to it when I get to it, really. But no, I've seen it up close, and I think it's a brilliant bit of kit.
It is. It's wonderful, and I'll be getting the next one. I was intrigued with some of the comment towards the Beaufighter, the latest Beaufort release from both the forums and Facebook. There seemed to be a criticism, and I didn't understand why. And there was a lot of talk about the Malta one. But as I said, we've been talking about on the forums for quite a while TSS schemes. The Temperate Sea scheme and Temperate Sea scheme, yeah. And we've been waiting for Corgi to do some decent TSS schemes for a long time, and finally they've got one. It looks like they've nailed the colours. I think I think there's a bit of a scale issue with the colours. You know what I mean? I don't think they've adjusted the colours quite right for the scale. But, it still looks fabulous, and I think it's a fantastic release. Everyone's waiting for the Malta one, but, I'm sure it will come. Just on the scale thing, I was having an interesting conversation with a friend of mine in the United States, Walt, who did the Canberra, who did like Code 3 Canberra, which is, the greatest model I own. He was telling me that what he does is, and I just thought it was interesting as a passing comment, and I assume that a lot of Code 3s do this. What he does is once he selects the colours that he's going to paint the aircraft, he adds 10% of just white for scale effect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
that does make sense. That does make sense.
Yeah, that's white. And then he tests it, and if he's happy with it, he goes on. If he's not, he just adds another 10% of white. And that's how he does the scale effect. So he chooses the colours of the actual, the colours, and then he just adds white, which I thought was, and Walt's, he's a genius. But it's a fantastic release. There's been, as I said, comment because why not Malta one? But anyway, it's not, and it's from a squadron there's a plethora of color photos of the actual color photo. There's a photo shoot of the squad. What squadron is it? I forget which squadron it is, but you can find color photos from the period over the White Cliffs of Dover of a bunch of 2 or 3 of them flying around. It must have been some sort of publicity photo shoot during the war, and they're all color. So they've got the resource there. I'll be buying it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's got a good story. I know it didn't survive the attack on Admiral Hipper, and the attack on the Admiral Hipper was failed. It did no damage, and the aircraft got shot down by I think a 109, and which is But other than that, I think it's a pretty good release. No problem.
Yeah, there's not. I'm trying to think off the top of my head of how many TSS schemes there are.
That's right.
Would the Sea Hurricane fall into that? I guess it would, wouldn't it? The Hawker Sea,
yes.
the Shuttleworth, yeah. So that's a pretty good rendition.
But Hawker just haven't done them well.
No.
Well, no one.
No, but that's really interesting when you talk about colour and scale. Isn't it amazing how that works? Because something that's absolutely spot on for a real aircraft doesn't work on a 172 version. And it's crazy, isn't it, how the eye adjusts to it. But no, it makes complete sense putting 10% white in.
Yes.
But then why they wouldn't put 10% white in at the factory to make it exactly right from the factory? It's crazy, isn't it?
Walt was telling me that he spent 4 or 5 days mixing colours to get the. I mean, I can't expect the factory to be Walt, and Walt, he's a genius. He doesn't do it anymore, which I think is a damn shame. He doesn't do code 3. The last code 3 he did was the Canberra for me as a Christmas present, and it's priceless. The model's priceless, and and for me it's priceless, and it's the crown of my 1,300 models. It's the crown jewel, but he was telling me, 5 or 6 days just mixing colours to get the colours right.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, but what it looks like in the tin or what it looks like in the mixing pot, and then what it looks like when it's dry is sometimes completely different. It really is. You'll be painting it on thinking, oh, it looks horrible, and then suddenly, oh, it's right. I've learnt that in my very limited code 3 ability, but no, I leave it to the experts like Glenn, Jay, Gary. Some of their work is unreal in it, and of course, I see you talk to Pappy on the forum as well, who's just a bloody genius. And talking of Beauforts, I know on the forum there was somebody doing an Aussie Beaufort, but I've not seen any further progress on that. Have I missed it?
No, there's no work on it. I think Sid Huey is he's busily trying to modify. He's bought a couple of Beauforts and he's busily trying to modify them. So to an Australian Beaufort, because we use the Australian Beauforts have twin Wasp engines, so a completely different engine. The American twin Wasp,
and different turrets as well, isn't there?
I think Corgi have sorted out the turret issue by the looks of it. I think they had the capacity to change the turret, because I think the Admiral Hipper release, I think turret's a little bit different. But the actual engine, I've got the name of the engine bay, but anyway, it's too early. That's the big issue because it's of the twin Wasp engine. So he's trying to do it himself. I haven't seen the end result. I should ask him actually.
3 months ago. Yeah, it's about 3 months ago, wasn't it? On the forum. I was really, really interested to see how it was all being done. It's fabulous.
He's very busy abroad, so that's how he makes his crust. He goes overseas and works on helicopters for various contracts. If not, and even if he's not abroad overseas, he's like in far Western Australia or something like that. So he's often out. So I'll ask him. I'll send a message to him and see how he's going with it.
No, really good. Right, so what else have we got with the Lancaster? Now for me, T for Tommy, absolute winner, but probably a year to 2 years too late, I would say. it was weird. The RAF 100 one was a perfect opportunity to have done that, I think. And
Yeah.
don't be wrong, it's a brilliant execution on that aircraft. I've got that one for me. I got it for my 40th birthday, actually. And it's look, I can't fault the downbuster mould or the aircraft itself and the different types, because I think T for Tommy was a spare, wasn't it? If I'm correct, their aircraft itself didn't had some issues with it, so it didn't have the light on or something like that. If I'm right, there's quite an interesting history, and it would have been absolutely massacred if it had taken the earlier route as well. So a very, very different scenario for Johnny Johnson himself. Yeah, just a shame it's come out a bit late, but I hope there's going to be a lot of tributes on it, which I think is really good. I'm sure there'll be a huge bit on either Aerodrome or Diecast Diaries around it from Michael, and it will do him and his legacy justice. It's just a shame that it's unfortunately time has caught up with him.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. It is what it is. For whatever reason, it's come out when it's come out. But again, it's one of 3 models that really is quite constrained about its ability to sell. I think. I mean, I'm not knocking the model. It's Operation Chastise. It'll probably do well. But I've got 4. I'm an Australian collector, and I've got 3 Australian flown Op Chastise Lancasters plus Gibson. I've got 4 of them. Like, there's no way that I'm going to want a 5th.
No, only the real diehards will.
And there's a lot of people like me. How many Chastise models have you got, Mark?
I think I've got 5. I think it's 5.
You're better than me.
Hold a second. I'm running over and looking. Yeah, I've got 5. Yep.
Yeah.
I wish I could tell that literally you when you get a collection this big, and that is just another Lancaster, isn't it? That's the way you got to look at it.
Yeah.
But look, it's approaching what, 200 quid a go now.
Yeah.
Yearly, when I first started collecting, they were 100 quid new, I think they were. I don't think I'd want to spunk 200 quid on it, if I have to be really, really honest. Personally. But I've just seen my little boy has joined the hi daddy, and he's done the hammers. He's not started the insults yet, so he started well. Hello, Rafe. Just thought I'd get that on camera.
Oh.
But I'm sure it's gonna be nice. But like I said, I know Dan. I don't know if Dan's still got all his Dan busters. So Dan did quite a bit of code free work. So he had about 9 Dan busters at one point. Like different ones, like ridiculous. Yeah, his Lancaster collection was ridiculous. I don't know if he's still got them or where he sold a few on there. I know he was downsizing a little bit. But that's where I'm at. I guess a lot of us now, if you think the old school, I class myself as old school at the age of 42, but the ones who have been collecting for years now, I guess, look to rotate the collection rather than add to it, if that makes sense. That's where I'm at now. I will have to start selling stuff in order to bring stuff in. Because I haven't got the room. I mean, there's always room, isn't there? I mean, you can always find room, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm looking behind me and finding like 50 ME109s on one shelf, and I'm going, there's no room. I guess it just constrains how you want to display it to a degree. But look, I'm sure it'll sell. I don't know if it's going to sell 1,000 units pretty quick, because that's going to be the minimum run, isn't it? 1,000 units of it. Which
I'd be very concerned if it wasn't for Walker's Lancaster, you know what I mean? If it was any other Chastise, although, Digby Young, and I mean, there's some great names in there. So, yeah. Anyway.
Well, we'll see. I mean, that ties in nicely to the point I was going to bring up at the start. 4 releases doesn't bring in a lot of income, does it? That's the concern. So if you're trying to make an area look, or a part of your business look profitable, 4 aircraft, if you're going to sell them, you'd want, they're 4 really good schemes. But if you're looking at 2 of them, which are northward of £150, that slows down the ability to sell them, right? There's not going to be a great cash return in their first quarter for Corgi on the aviation side. That's a concern, if I was to be really honest with
I agree. I agree.
So somebody's just added on there. I've got Knight and Hopgood, so not another train's added. I've got Knight and Hopgood would add Johnny's. I was lucky enough to meet him at the Three Lengths. I think Dan has met Johnny Johnson as well, and I know Dan they've got something signed by him. I even think James has met Johnny Johnson a few times as well. So yeah, look, he's an icon. There's, they don't make like men like him anymore. He was a kid when he went to war. He must have been, what, 21, maybe even younger when he went on that mission. That's just, it's half my age. It's just unbelievable, but look, it will sell. There's one other bit we need to cover, or two other bits in this case, and that's the B26, short wing, short tail, long tail, long wing, or whatever way they're going to do it. Hopefully they do both. And of course, the Tornado GR1 to GR3 series, which is being released in 148, which looks bloody beautiful. Lots of options on that as well. So start with the B26. It looks like it's going to be Dynamite, which is the one at the Utah Beach Museum in Normandy, which is damn sexy.
Yes.
I'm guessing that's a long wing, long tail version, isn't it? It's one of the later series. There's been no communication to say they're going to do both wings and both tails, although looking at it, you'd need a complete... No, but looking at it, the tail could be interchangeable. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. But the wing would need to be remoulded because different engines, and whether they're doing two different wings or not. But it'd be interesting to see if they do that, because I'd love an early... I mean, as much as being an Essex boy, I'd love a Stansted Fitchett version aircraft. There's so many great schemes in there. But I'd love an early Roundel, Pearl Harbor, Midway bird as well, because that looks sensational in that scheme.
Yeah, good choice from Corgi, I think. I think it's going to be a winner. I think there'll be enough schemes in the late for the late marks. Again, Sid Huey did a big spiel on Model Hangar 3, detailing the different marks and all that sort of thing, and I can't remember what it was.
No, it was fantastic. I think I shared it on this, didn't I? I shared it on Instagram because it blew my... I had no idea. I literally had no idea there was a short tail, short wing, and a long wing, long tail version. That's the way I look at it now. It's brilliant. Brilliant piece of work.
I think it's going to be a winner. And I think the best thing about it is that they didn't go towards something that's already been released. Like the Mark 9, they've gone with Johnny Johnson's, which has already been done by Gemini. And so they showed some discipline and didn't release... the ones that have already been released by Forces of Valor, who've now missed the boat. I think Forces of Valor have the B26 issue in Forces of Valor is just, I just don't understand. But anyway, Corgi have now filled it, and it's going to be very popular in the US, I reckon. It's going to make a killing. They're going to love it.
The B26 by Forces of Valor is actually a really, really good model. I know people talk about the rubber guns on it. It's a really decent model. It really is. Be interested to see whether there's room in the market for two, because, speaking of Vincent quite a lot, that I'm guessing there might be two different versions. The Metal Proud version, which will be completely new and more ornate, I should say, and there'll be a standard, the old Unimax version. But look, I mean, there's probably room if they do. It's all about schemes, isn't it? The model's good enough, so if they do a banging scheme, then it's an opportunity to get behind it. I think anything with a D-Day stripes on a Marauder, anyhow, I think you can't go wrong, can you? And of course, you've got RAF versions as well. Something I didn't know. I mean, I think I've spoken to you about it. Was that I nearly bid a couple of years back. I nearly bid on a Code 3 RAF version with D-Day stripes. I had no idea that didn't even exist. It was just a made-up scheme. It's a shame, really. The RAF didn't use it at D-Day. They only used it in the Med desert and sort of Sicily area, didn't they? Like Monte Cassino and stuff like that. So, but no, there's plenty of really good-looking aircraft out there to go after. So, So not another train set. I've got the HM A26 Rosemary, really nice. Looking forward to add a Corgi B26. And it's the last missing US medium, isn't it? Really? I mean, I say missing. Of course, Forces of Valor did it, but it's just a shame they didn't get on the. They've let Corgi take the plaudits there, haven't they? But it is what it is. I mean, I know. Speaking to you earlier today, that A20 scheme needs to be made by Hobby Master. I don't care if it's the wrong bloody model. That scheme is outrageously good. The desert one you've got sitting on your shelf, the
Oh,
plastic one, I love that. That is quality. I love the early US desert stuff. It's the RAF thin flashed, isn't it, on the back? I think
yeah,
that looks really cool.
Tunisia stuff. I mean, that's all, Torch and the Tunisia campaign, those schemes, and they're fantastic schemes because they're all experimenting. The Americans have just ended the war. There really is quite some diverse schemes with the P40s and its A10s, and sorry, not A10s, A20s, and yeah. So it's it's a fantastic scheme. But I mean, this discussion regarding HM and the A20 has been discussed to death. I think they chose the wrong tooling. I think everyone pretty much agrees with it now, but HM chose it because it was easy to churn out the same scheme and it was easy to produce, and that's the way they went. So, anyway. Hopefully, Corgi.
Well, sorry, mate. Couldn't hear you then.
Hopefully,
no. So, the Tornado. I
yes.
don't know if you're really into 148. What's your opinions on that? I think they made the right choices. For me, it was either that or the Buccaneer, which I think would look magnificent. But I think it's a really, really good choice of aircraft to go after.
Oh, I think yeah, absolutely. Geez, maybe we'll get a 9 Squadron Tonka with a bat on it. But what is it with Corgi and 9 Squadron? I don't get it. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to it. Both the GR1 and the GR4, based on the drawings that we've seen. Plenty of weapon options. So we've got to see the alarm option, and hopefully we'll see Jay did a wonderful code 3 for me, a 9 Squadron with WE 177 nuclear bombs on it. So hopefully we'll see that sort of diversity with the tooling as well. So I think the 172 tooling is actually pretty good, and I think, I mean, there's obviously nitpicky things you can say about some of the releases, but they've been really good diversifying the weapon loadouts with their Tonkas, Corgi. So I assume we'll see the same thing with the 148. I've got some Franklin Mint ones and a couple, and they'll probably get the arse once I get enough Corgi 140. I'll be an avid collector and enthusiastic collector of 148 Tornadoes. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to my mates who I usually go to the air shows with, and a lot of them were after the F3. But I think it's the weapon loadout side of things that adds something a little bit extra to the GI1 onwards than it is. I know it's a bit more beastly, and it's not quite as elegant as the F3. But I personally prefer that form of Tornado. I've always known it as a bomber rather than a fighter.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know how much airframe the F3 and the GR series share. I don't know whether it would be the next logical thing to do. But we were talking about schemes, but a lot of the schemes for the F3 are very grey. There's not an awful lot of variation. There's not green. There's not camo. There's not desert. It's not great. I mean, there's so much they could do, not just with RAF as well. Also, you've got Italian Air Force, Luftwaffe, or the German Navy. A lot of they use them as well. There's so many options, isn't there? Obviously, Saudi as well. There's so much they can do with it. But look, it's all good. I think it's a brilliant. Again, I think it's a masterful choice of tooling. They're going to be banging them out to close to £200 a go. I think people will go pretty mental for them as well, because I think that was one thing for me. I mean, I always said, I'm never going to mix the scales, but when I got my hands on the Lightning and the Phantom, I was like, actually, they are real great pieces of diecast. That's Corgi at their best, and that's why I guess the Typhoon thing was it was just a bit of why did it happen? But it's again, your Typhoon is a brilliant bit of kit, and the Harrier will be a brilliant bit of kit. It really will be. So it looks like that's where they're going now. That it's 148, 172 jets is basically all over to Hobby Master. So I guess Hobby Master will be looking at the Jaguar next, maybe looking at the Buccaneer, maybe looking at the Hunter, maybe looking at the Sea Harrier as well, and taking all of that market off of corgi, which they once had. Oh, I've lost him. Looks like I've lost Christian spinning. Oh, sorry guys, it looks like Christian has frozen. So look, it's a perfect opportunity for me to now sort of close it at this point. I'll drop him a message. And he's disappeared. He literally has gone. So look, thanks for tuning in. I'll share this on YouTube and the Facebook group. Any other comments, any questions, please just let us know. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your weekend, or in Christian's case, the rest of your working week, because it's now Monday in New South Wales. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.